Hello everyone, it's Kat here. I'm just here in a tiny little town just off Dartmoor called Ilsington, Ilsingham, Ilsington, but the medieval records say that the actual village began with an E, Elsington, which sounds much better to say rather than Islington or Elsington. So we'll say Elsington for the medieval lady we have behind me. So I'm going to turn the camera around so we can actually look at her in detail, and I'll talk more about her clothing, her headdress and her costume for you then. Here we are with a framed piece of information just above the effigy of Lady Dinham, but I have some other contrary information about this effigy which I'll go over with you in a minute, but we'll have a look at her as I pan the camera down. So let's have a look at her headdress. We've got a beautiful simple circlet at the top of her head, and I'll move the camera this way for you to actually see her. It doesn't look like it actually goes over her chin, just under her chin here. And we've got quite round features, and obviously they're a generic with the carving, but we've got lovely calls projecting forward over the ears, and we've got a lovely line here of the actual wimple. The wimple is straight. Unfortunately, we can't get much details, but we've got some beautiful folds here. The rest has been smashed, sadly, with the angels, which are holding her pillow here. I did read recently that the angels were put under the head, so they actually catch the soul to then swiftly take it up to heaven. But that's one way of looking at it. Lovely details of the angel's wings there, but that's all we've got left. There's nothing on the other side, but I'll pan over to the other side. There's no angel, but again, we've got some lovely details of the folds. Can you see that? Details of the folds of the headdress. So it's quite short over here, and then we've got a lovely fold here. So it looks like this edge might be straight, going over, and then going into because of these folds, going into a lovely circular part. So the veil is in a semicircle, which is really quite nice. The markings there aren't part of the original carving, so don't take that into account of pleat works around the chin. That's just not, these are later. There is nothing this side, as you can see. So those aren't denoting pleats. She's had some quite detailed bore work on her cheek, but her part of her nose has been smashed off, and there's hardly any facial details left other than cheeks. But what we can see, which is really nice, is we've got more folds going behind here that have been carved by the mason or the carver of the effigy, and we've got a nice high scoop neckline which we can got here. This side unfortunately hasn't got much remaining going down here. Her whole arm's been smashed. There's no indication of buttons, there's no indications of fabric being hitched up. They're trying to do there's a smash here, there's hardly any repair there, and it's completely smashed here. This was an older smash because it's coloured with this. This is a more recent smash by the look of it. So I'll see if I can dig out a photograph of this lady from when I visited 15 years ago, probably on my very, very old spool camera when we had spools before we had digital. But yeah, there's nothing other than her neckline there, as you can see. Again, I'll pan up there so you can see how lovely those little details of folds are, which have survived for her veil, which are really quite cute, showing quite a short veil going over the head with a simple circlet. You can see that, a simple circlet with a veil, short veil with lots and lots of folds. Yeah, and then what's nice on this side, you can actually see a slight detail with her overgown. You can actually see just here, if I come in, you can actually see she had a very wide front on her sideless surcoat. So she's wearing a gown underneath, a loose-fitting gown underneath with quite a wide across the chest surcoat. So we're looking at an earlier period in the 14th century, possibly even the tail end of the 13th century, 1290s, which ties in with one of the records from the books, which is from the more medieval people which were around on Dartmoor. I attended a couple of their lectures before 2020, it's in 2019, more medieval they've written a little book which I've bought from the church, and it actually said that this lady seems to tie in with the 1297 visit of King Edward I. He visited Ilsington. Now, reading the records, also from Plymouth, it looks like King Edward I also visited Plympton Priory, which is interesting because, again, the church records say that this church belonged to Plympton Priory too. So that could be why Edward III had an interest in visiting here. So we've got a few links, plus her clothing denotes that she actually was from that time period too. So she could be someone really, really wealthy from the little manor house, which is the other side of the church, which I'll actually show you again when we go outside. But let's look back at her costume. Let's go down here and then I'll bring up some more details for you. We've got a huge amount of folds here. There's no evidence at all of a cape at all. Those are folds coming right from the armhole, which would have been under there. I think we've got evidence of that just carved there. Can that be seen? Oh, with my finger, let me move that. We've got a little bit of an armhole there, look, and it's quite narrow, so it's just been cut. It's just been cut like a very wide surcote, unlike the later ones, which are more denoted as the gates of hell. This one's quite a large fronted sideless surcoat with pleats coming down here. If we move down here, we've got lovely details of shoes and a smashed dog at her feet, but beautiful indication of folds. Again, over that side, no indication of a cloak because we have no details of that, but again, no details of belts. We've just got a very full sideless surcoat, and I'll lean over and see if we've got any indication of anything else. Oops. No, totally and utterly smashed this side. Sorry, guys. Can't get any details from this side at all. Completely smashed. Just lots of folds. So this says it's Lady Dinham, but the records actually state that she could possibly, this is the more medieval book, which I'll bring over. I'll leave that there as I read it to you. Let me just bring that up so you can see her while I read what's in the book. It said that the old statue, which they mean the effigy, is to believe to be the first wife of Lord Dinham, or his grandmother, Isabella de Fishacre, who was the richest woman in the parish. Now, it says here she's depicted wearing a wimple, a typical kind of face veil worn by the ladies from the early 14th century, and whoever she may be is sure that she lived a relatively comfortable life with fine clothes and music, and the church that she's in was largely built from that time. So that's the information from one of the books, the more medieval, and that fits in again with Edward I's visit. If she was such a high status woman, then she probably and her husband or her grandson would have entertained King Edward in their manor house, just the other side of this church. Now, the other church book says that she's from 1375. She's suggested that she represents the first wife of Oliver Dinham of Ilsington. If so, it can be dated from 1375, but I really don't agree with that. The more I'm actually looking at her, I do believe that she is from the era of Edward I, and if going by more medieval with all the research that I've actually been party to with some of their lectures, I'm inclined to believe that she's in the time period of Edward I and his visit to this very, very church and village. So that's a lovely bit of history. It ties in as well with the wealth of the area. If she was a wealthy woman, it would be because of the Dartmoor tin and also because of the wool trade. Again, something King Edward would want to have his fingers in the pie of. All right, so there she is. I'll take you outside in a minute, but I'm also going to show you a bit of medieval glass that are remaining in this church. But I think the details, the scant details we got on her costume are quite nice, but I really like the details and the evidence that we've got on those gorgeous folds on her veil there. All right, guys, signing off. Bye. So just above me here over the window facing east is some remnants of medieval stained glass. There's only 4 pieces here, that's all that's left. Nothing else, everything else is a lot later. So I just thought I'd quickly show you the lovely cross keys. We've got some points of heraldry there, which unfortunately I'm not a heraldic expert at all, so I have no idea what they are of. But I just thought it'd be really nice to show you the little remains of the medieval glass here. Hi guys, so here is the church that we've just been in to look at the lovely Lady Effigy. So this is St Michael's here in Ilsington, and then I'm going to pan around here through the graveyard to the remains of the actual manor house. You can't see much, sadly, nothing remains, just a few bits of rubble. But over here you can see part of a door. I'll move forward. A couple of bits of the architecture, as you can see, and then we've got part of a window there. You can actually see where the actual lead and the actual uprights would have been in the window there on the window front. So where the graveyard is now was where the manor house is, and it also ties in with the back area of the church just over here, okay, where the doorway was that I photographed that they actually went in. I think the doorway's around here somewhere. So that's where they went in. So they had their own private access to the church. And then here is the remains of what would have been another window, I think. There's a plaque here. Got some uprights which are there. And then here we have the remains of the door. I'll go back to the plaque for you. So we've got the remains of the door. I'll move back carefully so you can see. And over there we have more remains of the front of the original medieval manor house, which is pretty impressive really. Lovely size frontage of this building. And then here, this gives you an idea, hope you can see that, an idea of what the manor house was. Quite vast actually, written in the Domesday Book of 1086, and in the 13th century was held by the Beaumonts, Earls of Devon, by their tenants the Dinhams. Alright, so there's a load of information there for you, and you can actually see that maybe over that way, somewhere over there, was the turret staircase for the upper levels. Anyway, signing off, we finished here. Absolutely beautiful effigy with some really nice early details on, and I'll catch up with you later. Take care everyone, bye.